Share the book, Ashley. Want to see it
Okay.
during the live.
Okay.
Hello, my lovelies. We are live. I'm so happy to have everybody here. And of course, we have the lovely Ashley Winstead, author of our group book, which is super exciting, as well as my two wonderful co-hosts, Amy and Paige. Paige just climbed out of bed for us. So we're all excited to be here. And everybody here in the comments, thank you for joining us. So I kind of I wrote like a ton of questions that I want to ask. So I kind of split them up into starting out with asking like about you and your writing, and then kind of going into the book as we go. And also I'll pop up anybody's comments and questions on the screen. So we actually have a few. Hey, I can't listen yet, but I'll catch up in the chat. How was everybody doing today? I'm doing good.
Awake. I'm awake
great.
more than Paige.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my ADHD meds to kick in.
Yeah.
There's not a thought going on up here at the moment. We'll get there though. It'll kick in eventually.
Yeah. You're just perfectly on theme for our like collegiate book. Here.
For everybody that doesn't know, Paige is in Australia, so she literally just woke up. So thank you for joining us.
As a fellow night person, I'm genuinely touched that you're here with us right now. Like, I know that sacrifice. And hi, everyone. I should have said that. I'm so excited to be here.
Actually, where are you located?
I'm in Houston, Texas. Yeah. So I'm on Central Time, and it is not at all fall-like outside. It's still sweltering.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like dreaming of, is it in Tennessee, Melanie? Is it
Still
better?
pretty hot here.
Okay. Yeah.
We have a couple of days here and there that are like, oh, this is nice, and it's in the 70s, and then it's back to 80s and 90s.
Exactly. So this is like very much wish fulfillment, reading about like fall on a college campus.
Okay, so my very first question I have is, did you always know you wanted to be a writer?
Yes. In fact, I like kind of, if I can recall, from my acknowledgments in the back of this book, I talked about how I actually, something I battled my whole life, because as soon as I knew that, like, you know, jobs existed as a young kid and like there was something you had to choose to do, that I was like, oh my God, you know, I want to write books. I was obsessed with reading books as a kid, and just my entire life, I was like this overachiever, straight A student, all with the goal of like getting into a good college and a good writing program, going to an MFA, getting my MFA, and then becoming a novelist. So that was like always, always the plan. And then I went to college and did that for the most part, applied to my MFA program. So like 22 years of everything rolling along perfectly on this train track towards my goal. And I was rejected from all 12 of my MFA programs that I applied to. And it was the first huge setback of my entire life. Like, my identity was wrapped up in being a writer. So I took that so hard. I did like the one thing you were never supposed to do as a human, but especially as a writer. And I took the rejection at face value and I let it define me. So for 10 years, I didn't write.
Wow.
I went off and I did other things like the music industry, TV stuff. Like, I moved out to California. I did grad school for 6 years and got my PhD. Like, I literally did everything under the sun. And it wasn't until I had passed my dissertation defense at the age of 32, like it's been 10 years, and I thought to myself, Ashley, you just wrote a book-length dissertation that was incredibly dry. You forced yourself to get up and do this 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. What if, God forbid, you applied that same like work ethic to writing something you're actually excited about and you showed no one? Like, because my ego 10 years later was still so shattered and small and tiny and bruised from like what felt like defining rejection, that I had to convince myself to even just play around on my laptop with writing. And so I started doing it instead of watching Netflix because it ended up being more fun to me. And a year later, I was like working a day job and writing on my nights and weekends because I loved it so much. And soon enough, I had like a book, and it wasn't this book. It was it was a much worse book that will never see the light of day, but it was a necessary step, right? So it's kind of funny because a lot of people will ask, I write about college a lot, you know, like here in my debut, and then a few of my other books have it in my settings. And everyone is always like, why do you keep going back there? And at first I was kind of like, I really don't know. What a mystery for the ages. Who knows why that's such an attractive place for me? And then finally it hit me that like, oh, this is where your like life went. Like, not off track, because I don't want to call this 10 years like lost, because I did a lot of important life things. I married someone and all that good stuff, and had some career stuff, but it really was like, it was a really heavy and formative time for me. Okay, sorry, I will not ramble that long.
No. It's funny. Actually, you answered a few of my questions with that question.
Well, and that's funny because our characters come back after 10 years to like reassess what's happened since then.
Exactly.
I think that's great. That's wild.
Yep.
I can also see.
Oh yeah, sorry, go Melanie.
I was gonna say I can also see the Jessica inspiration in your story there too.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm now writing my 10th book, if you can believe it or not, and I have like the honor and privilege of being a full-time writer. So my life has changed a lot since I like got the courage to start writing again, which is awesome. And I hope if there are any fellow writers watching this who haven't hit the milestones they want to hit yet, that you like hear that story and take heart. But yeah, sorry, what was that? I was saying, oh yeah, that is like I found that from In My Dreams on, the way that I connect with my books and get really fired up about writing them is like taking a scalpel into my psyche and my heart and like digging out some of the like deepest, most painful or shameful or whatever it is parts of myself and putting them on the page. And so like absolutely Jessica is like some of my things that I've struggled with in my own life, like put out on the page in a character.
Well, I feel like
that's brave. I mean, that's awesome. It's brave.
I feel like that's something a lot of artists do. They put their heart and emotions and whatever medium of art it is, whether it's writing a screenplay or it's painting a picture, it's the best works of art are the ones that are from something real.
Yeah. I truly cannot. Whenever people ask the question like, oh, so are you like your characters, your main characters, and I'll listen to other writers like on panels be like, no, it's like really they're a product of my imagination. I'm like, I cannot like relate to that because I'm so embedded, for better or worse, with my characters.
Well, and the cool thing about that is you get a lot more of the emotions, though. You get a deeper sense of the emotions that the characters have because you've experienced it yourself. I think it's really,
it definitely,
I think it's important.
It makes it easier for me to have like a more immediate access to it as I'm writing, for sure.
It's funny because of a question that I'm going to come to later about characters. It's gonna be funny when I get to that. Yeah. Okay, so who are your favorite authors and why?
My number one favorite author of all time is Margaret Atwood. So I'm a big Atwood girly. I actually love The Blind Assassin, which is one of her lesser known works. The best because it's like this book within a book within a book. It's a mystery and a love story, and it blends like sci-fi and historical fiction and kind of a thriller. So, I really enjoy reading across genres. So that book's lovely because it packs all the genres into one. And it's just like a feat of artistry. So that is my number one favorite book. growing up and throughout school, I think I got like a literary oh puppy. I had like a literary snobbishness to me where I was like very convinced that the good books were in the canon, you know, and like all the dead men and women were the ones who had written it, and that was it. And the like exquisite sense of freedom I experienced after graduating from grad school and starting to pick up like urban fantasy, and just like all of these thrillers and romances. It was just incredible. So now I read as voraciously as possible, like in the genres and thrillers. I love Jennifer Hillier, Stacey Willingham, Hannah Morrissey. I love Amy Gentry. May Cobb is my girl, both on and off the page. For Hunting Wives fame, which I'm so excited for her that show has blown up. And then in romances, I love Christina Lauren, Regina Black, Ava Wilder. And in urban fantasy, I love Ilana Andrews. If you know her from the old, what is The Magic Bites? Is the first book in her Kate. Oh, what is it? I'm forgetting
Kate
the last
Daniels.
name. What was it?
Daniels?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Kate Daniels series. So I'm obsessed with all of that. Everything under the sun.
We've actually had Christina Lauren on here too. Well, Christina and Lauren.
Yeah.
Which I've
I
had
know.
SeasonAthon.
That was like such a moment when I realized they were two different people.
Uh-huh.
I'm still not over it.
And they were
That's
lovely.
awesome.
That was a fun live show too.
Yes, they seem incredible. I've been at like festivals and stuff with them and seen them at bars and just been like, oh, just like too scared to go up to them to say hi. But
Hi, friends.
I know, just like fangirling out, like, hi, you don't know me, but I love you.
They might be doing the same thing with you. Like, oh my gosh, I love that book.
Oh no, definitely not. But yeah, a girl can dream one day.
So, which
They do
author
seem
would you
pretty down to
say?
earth.
Yeah, which author would you say has the most significant impact on your writing?
Ooh, that's so interesting. Oh, okay, easy answer. Just popped into my head. Actually, a poet whose name is Richard Sykin. And so he actually just came out with his third collection of poetry a few weeks ago, called I Do Know Some Things. But he won the Yale Younger Poets Prize in I think 2004 for this collection called Crush. And way before I ever wanted to be, a novelist, I thought I would be a poet. So, I was like really plugged into that scene. And my parents were probably like, whew, thank God. Dodged a bullet with that one. But no, I am so obsessed with Richard Sykin, the way that he writes with such raw, visceral emotion and honesty. Like in his poems, he is writing about the things that you're not supposed to say out loud. And it's so cinematic and visual. And I go back to Crush and now his other collections on a weekly basis to remind myself what language can do and like what the goal for myself is on a sentence and like emotional honesty level. So yeah, if there's one writer who you could probably like go through some of my books and like pick up his cadence of his prose because that's how like devoted to him I am in my head is like my thoughts start sinking to the way he writes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one of the questions you actually already answered in a way was your first book that you wrote published? And you said it was not. It was terrible and it'll never see the light of day. What was it about?
Old Shelfie, I call that book. The one that's in my shelf and no one will ever see it. So, oh my God, you guys, I have rewritten that book probably 200 times. Gutted it back to the bones and rebuilt. It is a YA contemporary fantasy, because that felt like the most like exciting and escapist thing to write after my grad school program. About You're gonna maybe see some parallels with In My Dreams. but about a girl whose mom died mysteriously when she was an infant, like right after she was born. And her entire life, she's wondered about what happened to her mom and why she has these sort of like supernatural powers because it's fantasy. So she has what she calls this small magic. And so she's assuming that these things are related, and she's able to track down. I won't go too much into detail, but she's able to track down that there's this really powerful, wealthy family in Nashville who, because it's set in Tennessee, because I went to college in Tennessee. So actually, in my dreams, is kind of like Vanderbilt mixed with Wake Forest and Duke. So there's probably some things that if
I
you're
was getting
familiar with.
Duke vibes.
Yes, I was trying really hard to mask my Vanderbilt by like gearing it towards Duke, so not everyone would be like, "Oh my God, she just like set this at Vanderbilt." So I'm glad that you got those vibes. And oh yeah, back to and so yeah, she gets herself enrolled there and starts this mystery, and it starts this huge like life-changing journey, and it's like a
I
enemies
want
to
to read that.
lovers. Yeah, because the like son of this guy she suspects had a hand in her mom's death, she starts to fall in love with, and it's just um yeah, it was fun, but again, I think just not original enough to break out on the market if I can like put my self-critiquing hat on.
So when you finally wrote, and I'm guessing it was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife is the one that you wrote, and you were like, yes, I think this is good enough. How long did it take you to get an agent?
So the lucky thing is the one thing that that shelfie book gave me, the contemporary fantasy, is my agent. So I used it to get into this program that used to exist called Pitch Wars. I don't know if anyone like
I've heard
has
of
heard of
that.
that. Okay, it used to be the biggest program for unagented writers. And it was like in the heyday of Twitter, back before, everything collapsed. And so it was like one of those pitching contests where um, it just like all the action happened on Twitter, and I stumbled into it, discovered it. It's like you get these established writer mentors who help you gut your book and turn it around and edit it and then present it to agents. So I got in with that book. It felt like winning the golden ticket at Wonka, it was like so incredible. Gutted it over the course of 3 months. I changed almost every word in that book with my mentors, and I got my agent off of it. And she wrote me this edit letter that was about 15 pages long, asking me to go back and re-gut the book and re-edit it after I just sprinted for 3 months doing that. And I looked at that edit letter, and all my excitement, like all the champagne bubbles of getting an agent, just like fizzled down to flat. And I was like, oh shit, I have to do this again. And so I was like, you know what? The procrastinator in me was like, you know what would be easier if I just wrote a new book from scratch real fast. So I did. I started like productive procrastinating, and I wrote this book like in 4 months, which was
Wow.
way faster, like a third of the time that I'd written the previous one. But it's because I had like my mentor's voices in my head, and I just learned so much, and it just poured out of me. Um, and so on my due date, I was supposed to turn in my edited copy of the first book. I presented this book to my agent who did not know it was coming. And I was like, well, instead of that YA fantasy you signed me for, what about this book? I'm not really sure what the genre is. And she was like, it's clearly a thriller. Like there's a dead body, there's a mystery. I was like, oh, okay, then it's an adult thriller. And to her credit, she rolled with that punch, read it in like 2 days, came back to me, was like, change this, this, and this, and we'll go out with it. And that was such a different experience. Than obviously the first book that I'd labored over for, at that point, it was like 2.5 years or something. So I was elated, and we were able to sell it, and now here I am.
So how long did it take you to get published?
So The hits never stop coming in publishing, which I'm sure you guys have heard from all the writers that you've interviewed and can imagine. So you're never done getting rejected and embarrassed. So we sent this book out. All the editors were like, "Oh, how exciting!" And then we started to hear back. And I'm only going to name names because she and I are now friends and we're like buddies and we can laugh and talk about it. But there was a book that had just been submitted to editors like 2 weeks ahead of mine called The Girls Are All So Nice Here by Lori Elizabeth Flynn, a delightful human being, and it's a gorgeous book. But the premise is 10 years after someone died mysteriously at their college, a group of college students go back for their 10-year reunion for their homecoming. And all the editors had gone gaga over this premise and this book. And Lori, God bless her, as she deserved, had this huge auction for the book. And all these editors, by the time they looked at my book, they were like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry. I would have been interested in this 2 weeks ago or a month ago, but this basically the same premise just sold in this big auction. So we're gonna have to pass." So it was like pass after pass after pass after pass. I was crying in the gym, like that sort of thing. It was right back to where I'd been before. And I was like, wow, this is just not going to happen, is it? It was like one of those things. And then one publisher made an offer, like out of the blue, about 2 months later. And it started like this very small little auction among the remaining publishers, which was exciting. But I was just so happy for that lifeline of like someone saying, "Yeah, we'll do it. We'll publish it." And so the happy part of that story is like everyone loves Lori's book and people have room in their hearts for mine as well. There's like, it turns out we both published our books in 2021, which was like the height of dark academia. Like everyone was feral for dark academia, which never could have predicted. Didn't even know I was writing dark academia at the time. I was just like doing the vibes that felt right. And so now she and I are like get to be on panels together and like recommend each other's book to each other. So it like has a very happy ending. But for a while there, it was bleak.
Yeah, actually, before we started the live, before even Paige got on, Amy and I were talking about your books and how incredible it was that this is your debut. And it's got, I think I said 125,000 ratings on Goodreads. And I mean, that's incredible for a debut.
Very grateful. Yeah. It changed my life, honestly. It's like why this book has changed my life. It's why I get to do this for a full-time job now. So
I didn't, so you said that like the editor's auction, like I didn't understand that there was an auction process when it came to publishing.
oh my gosh, it's such a wild industry because yeah, your agent submits your manuscript to editors. So you sit back. Like at this point, you've gotten your agent, so now it's their job to do the hard part. If I guess writing is the hard part, but anyway. So then they're bringing it to all these editors and saying like, "Look at this shiny, beautiful book I have for sale. Would you like to read it and publish it?" And so usually it takes quite a while to hear back. For some people, it doesn't, and you'll hear stories of people being like, "Oh my God, editors read it in 2 days and made a huge offer." But yeah, there's this scenario that happens to very, very lucky people, very, very lucky writers, where one editor will say, "Read it, loved it, let's have a call," and then they'll make an offer. Like I'll offer you XYZ amount of money to publish it in this year, and here's all the things I want. You start to get into like the legalese of stuff. And then your agent will be like, "Beautiful, great. We'll get back to you." And then they go to all the other editors who haven't yet rejected you, and they write them an email and they say like, "Update, we have an offer." It's the same as like when you're kind of querying and trying to get an agent. And once you have that one offer in your hand, you go back and try to like seduce the other, people into also wanting your thing because, you know, everyone wants something someone else wants, right? It's like, that's the kind of thinking behind it,
Like,
which is
oh,
true.
they want it. I do too.
Exactly. There's got to be something here that, you know, that someone else is seeing. So I better move this book to the top of my list, read it real fast, and see if I too want to put an offer in. So in that case where you do have multiple, at least 2 or more editors, then you get to go to auction, where your agent says, okay, everyone submit like your best offer at 3 p.m. on Tuesday. And then it keeps going rounds and rounds until people pull out. And then you decide. Yeah, it can be very, those are like the best days in publishing. Most days as an author, you're just slogging through the creative process and like all the nitty-gritty of the business side of it. But auction days those are the glory days for sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Of course. Sorry. I hope that wasn't more than you wanted to know.
No, it was perfect.
So actually, one of my questions, and this is one that you've kind of already answered with the whole like
I'm sensing a theme here.
is what challenges have you faced in your writing career? And I mean, obviously you came across quite a few who made you stop writing for 10 years.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to aspiring authors in your genre?
I'll stick with thriller since I write across a few now, but I think I'll stick with thriller. Well, right now it's interesting because there's what is it? It's not perennial. That's like, I'm not a plant person. Perennials, like, are they every year or they
I
have
think they're the ones that come back every year.
They
there's the
maintain
timeless.
every
You
year.
know what? Here's the word I'm looking for: evergreen. I was like, I know it's a plant word. There's the evergreen advice, but for people who are trying to get published in thrillers right at this moment, thrillers are in a kind of like market lull at this moment, because romantasy is so hot right now, and it is the genre that is like, that's what everyone's buying, that's what everyone's reading and talking about. So my advice to thriller authors would be hang in there. You know, like right now, if you're a querying thriller author, you might not be getting as many bites on your manuscript or your pitch. Same as if you're a thriller author on sub. And if you're an author like on who's got a book coming out, you know, again, just hang in there because the pendulum always shifts back, you know. A few years ago, thrillers were so hot and everyone wanted, you know, a domestic suspense, a female-centered psychological suspense, post Gone Girl, post, you know, it was like when Riley Sager became huge and it was just so.
Alex Michaelides,
Yes,
The Silent Patient.
Exactly. Yeah, just like that was just the things that were the kind of books that were dominating the bestseller list, and now it's romantasy. So everything has like a balance and a shift. So I would really just say hang in there, your time will come. Books are forever, so you audiences can find you even if they're not immediately. Play the long game.
I like that.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Always.
So you have written some romances, and
Yep.
it seems like you try to cross genres a bit with your thrillers even.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like switching genres when you're actually deciding like what my next book is going to be?
Yeah, I love that question. For me, it's this huge relief where it's like I get to clear all the cobwebs and tropes and like habits out of my brain that I've just kind of conditioned myself with writing, you know, spending 6 months or whatever writing a thriller. I get to like clear everything out and start really fresh with a romance book. And I pretty much, I wish I had a decision over what I need to write and when, but I pretty much have to follow my contract schedules. But it has worked out so far really well for me because it'll be like, okay, I've got a thriller due, and now I've got a romance, and now it's back to thriller. So I have gotten to really kind of do that. Hey, puppy. That like desk clearing that feels really fun. but there are moments for example, recently, I was like 50,000 words into this like angsty, forbidden love sort of romance that I'm writing that's going to be like a follow-up to the Future Saints. Um, and I was so deep in this book, and I was like watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, on a weekly basis, and then like using all of that yearning and pent up feelings that I had watching like Conrad Fisher get his heart broken, being like back to my laptop and like I can, you know, do this too. And then my agent was like, yeah, you really need to turn back to your thriller and like do all the edits because we actually decided that they're going to be doing a month. And I was like, what? Oh my God. Okay. So I had to like claw my way mentally and emotionally out of that place I was in writing that book. Because it feels, I'm sure this is true of all writers, but to write that book, in whatever genre, whatever you're doing, it's like method acting almost. You have to be so deep in it. Um, Otherwise, things aren't going to flow, and it'll feel like pulling teeth to get the words out. But yeah, so it takes a while to pull yourself out of that one headscape that you're in, and go to another one. Usually, it's refreshing and I'm ready for it, but when the deadlines are close, then it gets hairy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Speaking of your romances, I've read one of them. And I was talking about it earlier that I actually read book 2, and I was like, before reading book 1, and it was the from Fool Me Once, but it was book 2. It was The Boyfriend Candidate, and I gave it 5 stars.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-oh.
Was I supposed to read the other one first? And I looked and I was like, okay, it looks like there's a character, so it's fine.
Oh yeah.
But now I want to read the other one because I love the second one.
First of all, thank you. I really, really appreciate you reading more of my books. And especially, the romance, that's the like lesser tread of my genres. But no, I wrote them as like interlinked standalones. It's like where you return to the same world. Abby Jimenez does it so well. Rosie Dannon does it so well. So I wanted to do that where you don't have to read the first one, but if you have, then you're like, oh yeah, there's these people that I know, and oh cool, here's even more of their journey. So yeah, I feel like, funny enough, normally when you write a series, your first book will always and forever be the most read and the most popular. But that series is totally the opposite, where everyone reads The Boyfriend Candidate, the second book, and is then like, oh, there's a first one with the older sister. So can't predict, how things are going to go. But thank you for reading it. I'm glad you liked it.
Okay. Favorite part of being an author?
That's such a good question. If I've been holed up in my office writing for a while, then it's the chance to like go out to a book signing or a talk, or it's like the interacting with readers. That part is my favorite. But if I've been on tour for a few weeks and you ask me that question, then I'm like, ooh, you know what I love? Silence in my office and and being like a bear in a cave, hibernating and just writing. But I think overall, it's probably that very rare, very magical feeling flow that you get into, where you just don't want to eat. You have to force yourself to go to the bathroom. You just don't want to get up from that screen, because you're so in it.
Culinary Crime says, I have The Boyfriend Candidate on my shelf. Had no idea it was a sequel either.
Oh, okay. Yes, this is an important PSA to everyone. It is actually part of a series. But thank you for having Boyfriend Candidate on your shelf. I love it.
Okay. So what inspired In My Dreams I Hold a Knife?
You guys are probably going to guess. But based on the other story, but I actually I'd written this first book, right? I'd gotten into Pitch Wars, that YA book. So I was feeling myself. I was feeling good. Like, I had a full-time job. I was done with grad school, and it was my 10-year college reunion at Vanderbilt. And I was so excited to go back. Everyone was going back. And for me, like I mentioned, college really looms large for me in my imagination and my history and probably my unresolved trauma. But that's for my therapist. But yeah, it really looms large for me. And so at that time, or at 10 years with that milestone, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to go back. Not only do I get to go back and to this place I was like my favorite part of my life, these golden 4 years, obviously it ended kind of with a whimper instead of a bang, but for the most part, I loved it. I met my husband while I was in college. And had my best friends. So I had all these huge expectations going back. And I remember walking around at one point during that homecoming weekend, like everyone's at the football parade and doing all the stuff you're supposed to be doing. And I just wanted to like have a moment with campus. So I was walking around the campus on my own, and I had this feeling of like immense disappointment. And I realized that like none of it felt the same. And this like golden weekend I thought I was going to have, getting to go back, especially when I was starting to like achieve my dreams and turn it all around from when I'd been there before. I thought I was going to be like full of triumph, and everything was smaller and different and less grand, and it wasn't hitting it all the way it was supposed to. And I had to have this like reckoning with myself that who I was 10 years ago was a girl I could never access again. And that part of my life was like a closed chapter. And I couldn't just like open the book and start it over again. It wasn't going to come back to life. And I spent like months after coming back from campus and everything, thinking about that, processing it, and doing like healthy things like moving on. But I started to picture what it would look like if you were the kind of person who could not let go, and who had it was so important that you that your life play out according to this narrative that you scripted for yourself. And so Jessica started to appear to me as this girl who was like frozen in amber. She could not accept, moving on because of a lot of trauma, which will do that to you, but also for her own reasons. So that's really where that book was born, out of like my own walking around that campus. And so then it just started to like fly out of me. Yeah.
I could see the relation between what what happened with you and the book when you were talking about it earlier.
Yes, just in case anyone is curious, yes, I am in therapy, so don't worry about me. I'm doing good. Everyone's probably like, "Oh goodness,
we're big questions."
Yeah.
We're big fans of
okay,
therapy.
Good. Man, I'm just preempting everything, aren't I?
I love it.
Yeah.
The Reading and Writing Life says, since you mentioned the method, I'm wondering if characters get on your nerves when you're writing them. If so, who was it in My Dreams?
Oh, that's such a good question. If characters get on my nerves, I realize that I need to rewrite them because there's something that's not working for them. So yes, but it's like a signal to me that I'm not, like if there are villains or characters that are supposed to be annoying, I let that stand. But usually if a character is annoying me, it's because I'm not writing them the way some part of my brain is realizing they need to be written. But the biggest thing that happens to me when I'm writing characters that gets annoying is some other character will start to steal the show when I don't want them to. Like some part, I'll start giving like the best lines to a secondary character, or like they'll really start doing things where I'm like, oh wow, okay. My brain is wanting them to be a lot funnier and punchier than I'd originally intended, or like more complex and layers, have more layers. And oh my God, I just realized there has to be this like backstory. It's happening to me right now as I'm writing this current romantic like drama that I was talking about. Is I have this character who was literally only supposed to like pop his head in a few chapters, and now I'm like, oh God, he has this whole forbidden love story. Of course he does. That's why he's been off page, and now I'm going to have to sprinkle that in. And if I sprinkle that in, people are going to need to know more about that. So that's when a character starts to kind of get on my nerves, is when they start doing things that I did not plan for them to do.
You're getting too big for your britches.
Right, exactly. Like, go back into your corner. You're not supposed to be the star.
She also said she thinks she did a good job describing that feeling of you walking around campus when Jessica goes back.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's like you have these things that are so important to you as a writer. You're like, okay, I keep having this experience or this scene that's in my head, and I'm going to write a whole book just so I can write this feeling or this experience. So when someone says that to you, it's very meaningful. So thank you.
So the title kind of inspired this question. So
Yeah.
do you ever get inspired by a dream? Like,
Mm.
have you had a dream and then you're like, I need to write that as a book?
It's happening to me more and more, which I'm very excited about. Like, I used to just have really scary dreams or traumatic dreams or something, where I just wake up and be like, get me away from that. But now I'm starting to have entire books unfold in my head while I sleep. And I don't know what's happening to me, what fruits I'm eating that are helping my brain, or like omega-3 or something. I don't know. But I have woken up, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 times over the last few months, where I've been like, was that a book I'm working on, or was that a dream? And then I can remember every single part of it so vividly, and I'll write it all down in my notes app, which is where I keep all of my ideas. So like, if there's one thing that can never be stolen from me, hopefully it's my cell phone and my notes app. Yes, blame the dreams on the therapy. Yes, good point. Yeah, no, I'm being too healed. I'm getting too healed. My brain is being freed up to like, yeah, imagine more things. But no, I've been having exquisite like book length dreams. So
I want book
are the
length
dreams good
I'm
ideas?
envious.
Yeah. What's that?
I'm envious.
Yeah,
Mine are
no,
just
honestly,
nightmares, and I'm like,
I will admit, like, I will go back after some time has passed and I'll be like, oh, I gotta check this out. I need a new idea. And it's like, girl can fly, but also in love with, and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, that really seemed better, when I like woke up and wrote that down. So I'm not saying they're good ideas or like marketable, but they're just book length.
Are you a pantser or a planner? Or, a plotter? Pantser or
Yeah.
plotter?
Uber, plotter. Pantsers to me are magical creatures, unicorns. I do not know how people sit down in front of their laptop and just say, like, let the muses come to me and start typing. Cannot like that. I write 42-page outlines before I can ever start drafting. Like, they are just, I like to plan it all out. And this is especially true with my thrillers, because it's really important to me for my thrillers to have like lots of tiny Easter eggs or tiny little things that are going to be answered later. Like, I love that feeling when I'm reading a thriller of it, like all the little ticking clock pieces, like the machine working on so many levels. And so I try to do my best to construct that in my thrillers. And in order to do that, to like carry all those pieces in my head, I have to write it down. So it's just like the most annoying, like long outlines you could possibly imagine. And then I have to send them to my editor, who has to read the entire thing and give me her thumbs up. So God bless my editors for getting through all that. But it really is like, I'll walk around with my headphones on and just for an hour and listen to music and plot and type things and come back and yeah, plotter. Yeah.
Plotter.
I mean, that makes sense from like a thriller perspective, because there are, you don't want big plot holes, and you don't want to lose the strings
Right.
along the way. So that totally
Yes.
makes sense.
The people who can pants thrillers, I'm like, how your brain is miraculous. How do you hold that all in your head? Like for In My Dreams, which was my first, maybe they're just naturally gifted because I've gotten a little bit better as time goes on, but for Dreams, I had to print my outline on and paste it up on my wall and go through with a bunch of different color markers like highlighters and be like, okay, here's this plot thread that's running through and highlight like everywhere. So I could see like, oh, orange, which is like Frankie and Jack is going through here, and then up there's a huge gap where nothing's happening there and I haven't explained. So I'd go back to the drawing board and add it in. So really like I had to see it in my head, then visually to make sure it was all clicking.
How many drafts did you go through for In My Dreams?
So many less than my previous book. So I'm sure it was a lot, but looking back, it felt like such a more streamlined experience than that first book that I went back to like a trillion times. I think I did maybe 2 big overhauls with my editor at Sourcebooks. And then like line edits and copy edits. So it really wasn't, it was like night and day experience for me.
Was there any like one section, like one part that you ended up having to like redo over and over again?
My editor, well, first of all, this book was called East House 7 when I submitted it. So it was, it was like right after Big Little Lies had come out and, they were the Monterey Five, those women. So I was like, yeah, it was very like me trying to be Leanne Moriarty. So it's East House 7. And so my editor was like, you can do better than that. I challenge you to, come up with some more titles. So that was a whole process. But oh my God, one of the most brilliant pieces of advice and one of the suggestions that my editor gave me in the developmental process of like rewriting Dreams was the whole chapter in early, and I hope I don't spoil anything or if that's okay for this, but there's a chapter early, their freshman year, the friend group, where they like steal the parade float, and it's that whole chapter of like how they become the East House 7 and become notorious and everything. And all of that, like early stuff about them being friends, didn't exist in the first few drafts. And my editor was like, your readers aren't going to care that this friendship has fallen apart if you don't do the work of building them up and showing your readers how good it was at their peak, of like showing what was precious. So then it hits your readers when you take that away. And that was just such a brilliant piece of advice that I've carried with me throughout, books since then, is you can't just be like, oh, I'm so heartbroken that I've lost, this person. Your reader, off the bat, your reader's going to be like, I don't know that person. Like, I don't really care, but you have to kind of really show why your reader should care and put that on the page. So that chapter didn't exist before my editor. The Caro chapter where it's from her POV did not exist. My editor was like, we need to see from her head. We need to she's too overlooked. And then I felt terrible because I was like, oh my gosh, as an author, I'm doing exactly what this friend group is doing to this character, is just being like, yeah, totally overlooking you. So yeah, many very important contributions to the book from my editor.
Okay, so there were some parts that you had to add. Was there anything that you had to like significantly cut from the final version?
I think I probably spent more time with Coop and Jess, like on their romance moments, because that was also one of the things I was a romance writer and I didn't even know it, but that was like one of the things that was drawing me to that book is like, oh, I really want to write these high tension conflict scenes between these two people who are so attracted to each other and so like in love with each other but can't say it. So that was like one of the things that kept bringing me back to the page. So I had probably written too much of it and had to cut it out with my editor and focus on the mystery. But that's really it, which is also very different from my normal writing process because I tend to be an overwriter who has to, you guys are like listening to you. We can't imagine that you could
No.
talk or write too much.
Not at all.
No, it's great.
The Reading and Writing Life asks, do you have strict writing schedules or do you write when you feel it?
Such a good question. No, I have to do it on a schedule. I write every single day. I call it from coffee to wine. So
Love
yeah, as long as I can. If I only wrote when I felt like writing it, I would not even have a single book. You know, it's like this. I very much am a believer that it's a muscle that you have to work out over and over and over again. And do it even when you don't want to, like every job like that we all have. Otherwise I feel like, yeah, I would lose it and I wouldn't get any work done. So
Do you think that there's something in like you love writing and you've wanted to write for a very long time. Once you have these deadlines and different expectations are being placed on you because of that, has there been any enjoyment lost in that? You know, as far as the enjoyment of writing itself?
oh yeah, that's such a good question. I in the writing process, no. Like when it's just me in front of my computer, no, it's the same glorious experience. My eyes, like my life is so drastically different now than when that, that girl that was just like, no one will ever see this. I actually had those sticky notes on my laptop, like, to remind myself, because now my eyes are open to like the business side of publishing and how much of being a writer is public speaking, touring, signing, dealing with professional rejections, doing contract negotiations, like all these things I could not have even imagined. And as an introvert, which I swear I am, that has been a huge learning curve for me. And it's something where I have to psych myself up for it almost every time. So it's like that part where the writing life looks different than I thought it would. And so I have to like sometimes remind myself, like, girl, you begged for this. Like you dreamed of this. You're living your wildest dreams. And even if you have to go on a stage in front of 100 people and pick up a microphone and talk, and you feel like you would rather melt into the floor, like you begged for this. This is your, so get out there. And you may not have this chance tomorrow. I think I do constantly walk around with a sense of precarity since I've had things, I was not a young ingenue who like broke out at the age of 22 or 24 or anything like that. I know what it feels like for things to be yanked away. So I'm constantly like just grateful to be here, I guess.
Have you ever had writer's block? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, I think that happens every once in a while. And I will just I go to other people's art. Either I'll, watch TV or watch a movie or read Richard Zeichen. Crush has pulled me out. That poetry collection has pulled me out of so many blocks just because I'm like, oh yeah, even just hearing his voice in my head. Or I'll go for a walk or take a shower. Those are my two like tried and true things where,
Our thoughts.
yes, right? It's like you stop trying to force yourself and you let your mind go into that like very blank space where you're just rotely doing things, and somehow it helps, and you start like hearing dialogue, or you start hearing ideas, and it really does help. So yeah, between art and other people's brilliance and just like numbing myself out mentally, it always works out. Watch me say that. I'm knocking on wood right now because those are dangerous words for a writer to say. It always works out.
So what was the hardest scene for you to write in My Dreams?
Let's see. What was the hardest scene for me to write? There's this scene where Jessica, she has, well, am I allowed to spoil? Like how much spoilers are we
So
doing?
we'll put a hand up. If there's going to be spoilers, just put your hand up, and anybody that sees a hand up can mute if they don't want to hear any spoilers. So if you're going to say spoilers, put your hands up, and then they can go la la la.
Yes, earmuffs to everyone who hasn't finished. But there is this, yes, spoilers, thank you. There is the scene where Jessica, in her desperation and drunkenness and fury, breaks into the like scholarship and admissions office, and really gets herself cut up pretty badly, and goes and finds her file for this fellowship that she didn't get, and like really has the world ripped in half and the rug pulled out from under her, in the things that she learns, and then climbs back out and like lays there on the grass and is looking up at the stars, and has this moment where she's just like, I think, it's her at her lowest, I would say. And it was really, really important to me to get that right. So I think I wrote it 100,000 different times, like more than any other scene, because at first I wrote it way too with purple prose and like way too overwrought, and every single time I had to dial myself back, and then I'd read it and be like, oh, this packs no punch at all, so I'd dial it back up, and it was just like I could not get that right. And if I went back to cracked this book open and went to that page, I'd probably read it and still be like, give me my red pen. I want to go back, and keep working on it. But I finally got it to a point where I was happy enough to send it to my editor. And I will say, I do not look at Goodreads anymore. I learned my lesson. But back in the days when I did, which, when I was a debut author, it was harder not to resist the siren song of Goodreads. But I was really, really grateful, and it was really cool to see that lines from that scene had been put in people's favorite quotes like hundreds of times. And that was like one of my cool highlights as an author, being like, okay, this has resonated. Like, I worked my ass off on this, and people are out there, strangers, reading it and like highlighting it. And that is cool as heck. So
that was going to be my question about if you read reviews.
Not anymore, I swear, unless I am tagged in them on Instagram, and in which case I feel like that's like a green flag, like, okay, it's safe, you can go. That's not always the case, but for the most part it is. And it's like, okay, I've invited you to like read my review of your book, and then I will sometimes go, if I'm not busy or on a deadline or something and I have some time to play on Instagram, which is my favorite thing. And yeah, so I will read reviews, but on Goodreads or other spaces that are for readers, I have learned my lesson to stay away, because even if I read 100 glowing reviews and one negative one, there's only one of those reviews that's going to stick in my head, and you can guess which one it is. So
it's our brain's negativity bias.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. It's like, must you? Come on.
So something I got tickled by early on in the book was Jessica Miller, and it talking about being a common name. And one of my sisters, her name is Jessica, and at one point in time, she was Jessica Miller.
Yes.
And so I was like, yep, pretty common.
And I literally, people have asked me like, oh, how did you come up with the character names for this book? And a lot of times it's like a very woo-woo process for me that I take very seriously. I'm like, vibes, like mint. He has to sound like cold and reminiscent of cash and like, and like coupe has to be something that feels like really secure and like comfortable on your tongue. And it's like, I don't know if anyone else is like hearing this, but it feels right to me. But for Jessica Miller, I literally just looked up, in her birth year, what the most common surnames and like girls names were, and I was like, yeah, baby, you're one in a trillion. You're a drop in a bucket. Like this is defining you. So that one was easy.
Jessica.
Yeah, poor Jessica. Yeah.
Well, I think and we're kind of getting more into the actual book now, but I think
Mhm.
one of the things with Jessica is, she just so desperately wants to be unforgettable.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and that's through several stages of her life, she just really wants to be unforgettable. And she doesn't want to be, a wallflower or whatever. And I feel like that's such a common theme for so many people. They don't want to just be not noticed or just fade into the background. I mean, some people do. Obviously, they want that. They are like, please don't look at me.
Right.
But I know a lot of people, they're just like, I do want to be noticed, maybe not noticed by millions of people, but like I want these people to notice me, and I want these people to see me as awesome. And yeah, so I see it as like a very common kind of thing, a feeling that a lot of people would have and could relate to.
Absolutely. It's like, I mean, it works in so many different layers, right? Because it's a basic human need and desire to want to be seen. Like that's intimacy, that's love, that's closeness, is like really being seen and liked and appreciated for who you are. But then there's this other level of like, well, if you're a certain kind of person, which Jessica was and which I was, which is like I was a first generation college student. I like the only way I was going to college is if I got a scholarship. There's like and I'm sure I've heard this from other like the gifted and talented track line, the like A student to like depression, pipeline, but to depressed adult. But it's like when you also grow up with like certain kinds of conditioning for whatever reason it is, like maybe you've got academic achievements, maybe you want to be an actress, whatever, you start to really associate being liked and getting that stamp of approval, that gold star, that A, with getting the things you want, with like your ability to be loved and appreciated. Like the world only opens for you if if you're getting that feedback from people, if they like you, if they can't forget you. And it starts to be, I think with Jessica, like you were saying, Melanie, like what is fun to do with thriller characters is you take these very like human and relatable things and you make them pathological. You dial them up so high and intense that they turn pathological. So taking that human need for Jessica and that very relatable thing and then just like to its most extreme, right? And so I think it's like one of those things where she is the funhouse mirror for so many of us, looking and seeing ourselves but like exaggerated, or well, that's what I was trying to do with her. So you both like relate and see those parts but also are like, oh god. Yeah, like if I let this go too far, like her, like I guess here's an object lesson. Yes, she is the poster child for needing therapy, 1,000%.
Absolutely.
I mean, but you can also bring it back to an even deeper fear I think people have, is like that concept of legacy. Like, what are you going to leave behind? What is still
Yes.
going to remain of you when you're no longer there? And I think that that's something that'll, especially in this country, honestly, I think that's something that really sticks with people, and they think, oh my gosh, am I going to be forgotten? And if I'm forgotten, what's next? Like, I die, that's it.
Right.
And then, then I'm gone. And that's kind of
Yeah.
a scary concept.
I really, really appreciate you bringing that up, because I hardly ever get to talk about that aspect of this book and that idea. There's something, right? There's like, it's so human. This idea of like wanting to have a legacy and leave something behind and wanting to be not a small person. That's something Jessica says a lot. Like, I don't want to be small. And her dad is the example of what it looks like to like have your dreams deferred and die a small person without like your life looking like it was supposed to. And she doesn't want that. Um, but there's also something like very fundamentally selfish and narcissistic, I guess, even at the root of that idea of like, oh, you know, I'm so important. I can't, the world shouldn't keep turning without me. You know, there's something like at the root of that, that again, both human and very, very narcissistic, that she's like struggling to find the right balance of, and that I, to no one's surprise, have struggled with a lot of my own. And in fact, like when I lost someone who was really important to me later in my life after having written this book, like I think legacy became even more of a pathological obsession of mine. And there's this book that I wrote called This Book Will Bury You. And that is like the defining subject of that book is legacy and um, is turning that human need into like this pathological obsession. So think that's like one of the core things that I'm not done struggling with in my own head, and so I keep returning to it in fiction.
I get
Yeah,
that.
and yeah.
So at the very beginning of the book, I was like, okay, Jessica's got issues. But I was trying to, like, okay, give her some leeway, okay.
A kind soul.
Like, all right, I get, that would be devastating. The thing that happened when she was like 8, getting left and all that. I was like, okay, I'm trying to give her some grace. But then in chapter 4, I wrote this
It only
down.
lasts until chapter 4. Okay, I love it.
In chapter 4, when the one girl from another sorority said that Jessica and Mint gave them hope, and Jessica internally started freaking out because this girl saw them as equals, and Jessica seemed to think she was so much better, is the point that I really didn't like Jessica. I just can't keep giving you, like, trying to, like, hope for you to be better. You're just not.
That is that. What does it say about me that writing those parts and then Courtney's point of view were some of the most fun I had writing this book? Like, I think I really like ventriloquizing a mean girl. Like, it's so fun to put that on because I don't know. And hopefully it's fun to read, even if you're like, ew, I hate you. You're the worst. You still are like popping your popcorn in your mouth. And you're like, tell me more about how toxic you are.
I had a blast.
But yeah, right.
The mess. I love the mess.
Yeah, I love the mess. So hopefully there's
It's a
that.
very, very bingeable book.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. But yeah, it's like I feel the same way writing is like on the one hand, okay, cool, these like really like, emotional moments struggling over. I really care about crafting that perfectly. But the parts of this book where I'm like, ooh, we're flying, we're flowing are like the meanest bitch ass parts. So I don't know what that says about me. Other than maybe like we all hopefully everyone here is giving like kind-hearted vibes to me very much so like as you want to be kind to everyone and so you spend your whole life like thinking about that a lot, so being able to take that like burden off your shoulders in fiction and just get to be like super super mean is pretty fun.
I would
Well, and
probably
I
be
also
very
think there's
mean in
something.
books.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it's fun.
see, there's also something kind of cool about the fact that all of your characters have these underlying aspects that they're insecure about, or they're not like that's not a nice thing. Like but that's more realistic. Like, I mean, I know that everybody's not going to go to the extreme as your characters do, but you said in thrillers you make it more pathological. But like, not everybody, everybody's gray. Like, we don't necessarily. You're not always good always lovely, always
Yep.
kind, and or always bad, always terrible, always horrible. So like I like when you have a bit of that play with what makes a character who they are, and seeing some more of the underbelly of, you know, different kind of
Thank
people
you.
and the mistakes they make, because we
Thank
make
you.
mistakes.
Yes. I really appreciate you saying that, and I'm gonna like hold my hands up for spoilers just for a second for anyone who is listening. Thank you.
There
Just
we
put
go.
it back up on the screen.
Is that like when I started writing this book, I knew I wanted to write a book about how like 6 to 7, a group of people killed one of their friends. And maybe one person held the scissors, but in little ways, they all contributed to it. They all played a role. Um, in some ways bigger than others, but still like it was. And so it was like because I really like novels. I call them like systems novels or complicity thrillers. I call a lot of things my own terms in my head, but it's like when you can look at it and see how the entire ecosystem created this set of circumstances that happened. So for me, I really liked peeling back the layers on every character and showing like, oh, if Frankie hadn't handled her this way, or if Jack hadn't done this, or if Jessica obviously or Courtney hadn't drugged her. Okay, now I'll stop saying spoilers so we can take that off. Then Heather would be alive. And so I really, really like that, exploring that idea of like, it's not just Jessica who's this imperfect person, but it's all of them.
Oh yeah, I wrote Jessica is super self-centered. These friendships all seem very
Yeah.
toxic.
Yep. Yep.
I knew Amy would
Yes.
like to do it.
I love that. Yeah.
I have a legacy myself.
Yes. Yes.
I think we all enjoy being in someone's head sometimes. It's part of the fun of reading too. I read thrillers, but don't want them to be reality.
And I think part of the draw of like writing this dual timeline book where these characters who are in their 30s, you're seeing them also on the page in their like 18, 19, 20, 21, is that you can have them do those toxic things that are very like youth coded. Like they're very much like the mistakes that we make before we've emotionally matured and matured in a lot of different ways. And so I think that's relatable to be like, oh, drunk and messy, or oh, like super insecure and messy. And of course, it's a thriller, so once again, we're gonna take it to the extremes. But I think that was like another reason why I was so excited about writing like a dual timeline to show that these characters had grown up, but like 7 little Peter Pans or whatever, there's still a part of them that's stuck 10 years in the past.
Your prefrontal cortex isn't always fully developed until like
Right.
mid-20s.
Exactly. It's 25.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So they're running around, and yeah, that's the crazy thing about college, I guess, if you really think about it, is you're on your own for the first time and you're making all of these decisions that are going to have such huge impacts on the rest of your life, and you're not even fully like developed. Yeah, one of them to make good
decisions.
Let's see. When I was writing this book, I knew readers would feel that way. And so even though I didn't, he is also not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but Coop is my stand in for the reader's perspective. Like, very consciously, as I was writing it, I gave him like the reactions and the lines that in my head I was kind of thinking the reader might be having in any given moment. Like he's the one who checks Jessica on her drama and some of her more extreme insecurities and like toxicity, and always tries to like dial her down. So I like very much was hoping that he could be like the mouthpiece for the reader, or like the reader's representative in the story.
he's like considered the bad boy of the group, and he
Yeah.
sells drugs, and yet he's like the most moralistic in the end.
1,000%. Yep. The duality of man. Yeah.
She said, I think you
Thank
did a good
you.
job.
Yeah.
It was your favorite.
Thank you. My
Have
mom is one
Jada's
of my
Mini
first
Coopers.
readers on all my books, and after she read an early draft of this book, she called me and she's like, oh, I love Coop so much. He's the only one that I like. And she was, well, hopefully she's just like, I need you to write a novella telling me what happens to him after this, because I'm very worried about him and what's going to happen. So, yeah.
So when it was talking about that moment when Jessica was young and the things that her dad said to her,
Yeah.
and I just wrote like addicts blame everyone else for their problems, like
Yeah.
as a child, you hold on to these things that the adults tell you. You take them in and
it's gospel.
you believe them, and they affect, like they can affect your life many years later. Even as an adult, consciously that wasn't right and that's not true, but it still affects you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that like a lot of people could reading it, and as an adult reading it, you see, okay, yeah, that's not right, and you know it's not right, but you can see it too as, yeah, this is going to mess this kid up.
Oh yeah, how that is like a worldview that as a kid, this character just can't help but swallow hook, line, and sinker. And like you said, even if they grow up and get some intellectual distance and are able to acknowledge like those things were said because he was an addict, because he was projecting his own feelings and onto me, there's a part of you that is so emotionally tied up with it, that it's hard to ever really untangle. Yeah, and so like you said there, and once again back to that theme of like being stuck in all these different ways in the past.
Well, I mean, during those years of your life, you're building so many brain connections that make you who you are, whether you like it or not, and you have to
Yeah.
basically fight against some of those things but that's basically ingrained in you at that point. And
Yeah,
so that's it's really hard to fight when
it
you're
really
developing
is.
that way. It's really hard to fight those
And
the
you know,
trauma.
I was when I had a really close friend, um and I was really close with them during the time that I was writing and researching for In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and they were struggling with a parent in going in and out of rehab. And so addiction was something that we were talking about a lot. And so, like, with their permission, I kind of used a lot of the things that we were talking about, um, to inform Jessica's relationship with her father in the book. Um, and it's interesting because I've had a lot of messages about a lot of different things coming out of like people who have read this book and come out of it and had like things that they wanted to talk to me about, or which is very cool and an honor. And a lot of them have been around substance use, substance abuse, and having that in a family, and like the complicated feelings around that. So whenever anyone says that, like, yeah, that resonates with me, I always have to be like, that is all my friend, so shout out if you're watching, you know who you are. You helped make this feel more real.
What do you hope readers will take from this book?
Yeah, so many different things. I think if I had to like boil it down, just that, um, there is no such thing as being like worthy of love. That love in its purest state is just a gift that you're given. It's not a like a debt, something you're in debt to, something you have to earn, something that is precarious and can fall away when you step over the line or you step on the eggshell or you do anything. Because I think that is like at the core of Jessica's misbeliefs that make her this tragic, dark figure that she is that like early on she learned I'm only lovable if I'm hitting these marks, doing these right things, towing this line. And so from one overachiever who still struggles with that to any readers out there who might have that struggle with that thought too. Just it's a reminder that your worth, it's not something that the world mirrors back at you. So you don't have to watch other people's faces to know like how much you're worth, how valuable you are, and their reactions to you. It's intrinsic to you as just being a human. It's so sappy. Sorry, guys.
Okay. She says, do you do any psychological studies or read any kind of studies to give you ideas for your thriller books? I always think I have to do a ton of research to be able to write a book.
I don't think you do have to, but because I am the nerd that I am coming out of academia, I like to, I want to read the studies. And I think I was very much in my Freud era post grad school when I know it's, yeah. It's like, I feel like we have some actual scientists in this conversation here, like people citing brain studies who should very much laugh at me. But yeah, in literary PhD programs, Freud is a big character, and like all of his work on, the subconscious mind and the dark shadow subterranean self, and repression and all that, and like cycles of trauma and how you always return. So I was very much coming out of grad school with Freud huge in my head. So I had read like his 5 lectures on psychoanalysis. I had read Civilization and Its Discontents. And those were very much in my head, like that entire mid 20th century, like psychoanalytic way of thinking that I think has ultimately influenced art and literature more than it has brain science in the end. But so yeah. But yeah, I was very much, you can probably just trace the Freudian stuff throughout the book with Jessica's shadow self and all of that I was writing in it. But yeah, that was coming right out of grad school. So luckily, I had done all that research for my classes. So all I had to do was like pick it back up and be like, oh yeah. It's been, the research has been a heavier lift for all the books after that.
So related to Freud,
yeah,
I actually just learned something the other day that you might find interesting. Did you know that with Chat GPT,
oh Lord,
you can go in and you can say, answer this question as if you were Freud, and you ask it whatever, and it will respond how Freud would respond to that kind of question. I just heard this the other day. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I stay away from Chat GPT like it's coming for me with a pitchfork, because it is. It is coming for my job. I don't know. I'm an alarmist on AI, artificial intelligence, and the arts. So I love it. My husband is a roboticist. He loves artificial intelligence. The sciences are very like up and high on it. Love it for them. I'm sure it will make all of our lives better. And when we look back at this interview, they'll be like, Ashley's a Luddite and she was totally wrong. But right now, all of us authors are like literally suing the AI companies. Yeah. And it's just, so I'm like, when it comes to Chat GPT and AI, and anytime someone uses it around me, I'm like,
this is actually a therapist trying to have a conversation with Freud.
My full-grown human husband, who I have been trying to have emotional conversations with for years, had the nerve to sit next to me on a couch while we were watching Netflix, pause it, and turn to me and said, "You know, ChatGPT can act like a therapist." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, I was bored at work, so I spent like an hour talking to it as a therapist, and it was so helpful."
No.
And I was like, "Oh my God. First of all, don't you want me to have an income in the future? Stop feeding it your feelings. It's learning from you. Second, tried to have this conversation with you about your childhood for 10 years. And you'll talk to a robot, but not me."
As a man of science, that makes full sense, though.
Yes, right?
Maybe I should ask my partner to give it a go.
Just be like, "Hey, did you know? You can do it. It's like real chilled and sciencey." And
Case is
Yeah.
glad to hear you don't use AI as your writing process.
Sorry.
yeah,
I was
no,
like, that's not mine this time.
nope, I do not. And in fact, yeah, not for. I have it all turned off. Not for research, not for anything, because I want it to have no piece of me. I'm terrified of people being like, "Write a thriller in the voice of Ashley Winstead," and then I no longer have a job.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
Petrifying.
Well, I'll tell you, my son, he used an AI type thing to write a story,
Yeah,
and it was obvious that it was like AI done.
thank God. For now.
Yeah. Oh no, it was
It won't be that way
very,
in the future,
very
I'm sure.
obvious. It
Yeah.
was also titled The Poop Sock. So
That's adorable.
he's not a little kid.
Oh, okay.
He's a grown adult.
I'm like,
I want to say he was like
what a
17
cute
when he did
3-year-old you
this.
have.
It was like
Okay.
2 years ago. It would be
Amazing.
cute if he was like 9, but no, he was like 17 when he did.
Oh my God. Well, you know
I
what?
have this printed copy because he made a printed copy for me.
Please keeping ChatGPT occupied with poop stories.
Yes,
I
that
need him
sounds
to
great.
keep it busy working on that.
the poop sock.
Yes, exactly. Let's get into some sequels. Let's do it. That would be really helpful for me.
Okay, so I wrote, everyone did bad things to get where and what they wanted.
Yeah.
It bears to ask the question, how far is too far, and how far would you be willing to go? Most people would say they would never do this or that. But if it really came down to it, and you knew that doing this one bad thing would guarantee you got what you wanted or where you wanted, would you do it? And this is kind of for everybody because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Because like, hold on, let me click on that spoilers thing again. Let me find it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Jessica
Uh-huh.
needed this letter of recommendation, and she knew getting this letter of recommendation would would guarantee that she'd win this award.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did something she very much did not want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bad thing that she did. And she knew it was a bad thing. But it was like, if I do this, I will get this thing that I really, really want. And this is the only way I can guarantee, which it didn't work out for her, but it's the only way that I can guarantee that I will get what I want.
Yeah.
And so she did it. So I'm kind of curious on, maybe not to that extreme, but.
Or why not?
Would you?
Yeah. How far would you go?
Would you be willing to do something bad if you knew that you would get the thing that you wanted from it?
I'll since this is like for everyone else, I'll let everyone discuss this, but I will just say that I think that question is like I think that like almost that's like the defining question of the thriller and mystery genre is like, how far would you go for XYZ? And like I think one of the like chief tasks of a mystery or thriller is to kind of, especially in the like psychological suspense subgenre, is to convince you as a reader that maybe you would, it's to like, it's to bring you along with the character's mind and their psyche to maybe bring you to a point where you're like, you know what? This has been logical thus far. I would probably do this too. I can see where they're doing that, why
Yeah.
they would do that.
I feel like most people, up to a certain point,
Yeah.
would be willing to do a bad thing in order to guarantee they get what they want.
Absolutely.
Now that might be if I cheat on this test, or if I give this urine sample that's not mine, or whatever, then I will guarantee that I will get to whatever. I think most people would probably be willing to do at least a little bad thing if they knew they could get what they wanted by doing that. And I think most people would say the opposite.
Brain science.
I would never do
Yeah.
Can I just jump
most
in
people
real
would
quick?
say, no, I'd never.
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
If my
please.
therapist is watching this, I promise not to cause bodily harm to myself or others.
Oh.
Okay, so continuing on.
All right, now give us the dirt.
Yeah. If it was like a guaranteed, like, I feel like my moral compass is already slightly skew if, like, Amy and I host SeasonAthon where we make other people suffer for reading. Like, that's what we do. I'm already sort of like living the dream for it. I haven't had to necessarily commit murder yet, but,
Well, and it's like it's like the lines, the goalposts, the lines are always shifting, right? Because you're like, well, if it was self-defense, okay. Oh, if it was in defense of someone you love, okay. If there was a threat to someone you love and you had reason enough to believe, then okay. If, you can start like kind of just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I also want to say, like, I think a lot depends, like you said, on your moral compass. Are you a relativist? Or do you believe in like very rigid right and wrong, and there's nothing in between?
No gray.
No gray. And there's also history, I think, proves that people are willing to do some very messed up things if someone has convinced them that it's not really that wrong, like
if they're told it's okay.
If they're told it's
that's
okay,
where you get anarchy.
Yeah, or world wars, or it's going to serve some purpose. And there's so many psychological studies.
The ends.
Right, right? Aren't there? I'm looking at people who I assume know more about psychological studies than I do, but there are so many psychological studies, right, that show like how people are willing to let other people suffer more in increasing increments for like different purposes, which is fascinating.
So we have some responses in the chat here. I don't have a pathological need to be successful, so I'm going to say no.
The reading and writing life just checking us all on our moral, darkness.
But then they say, I would have 100% broken in the office to check the letters, but not get nobody away. So see, there is
really, Amanda.
There's something.
That would be classified as a bad thing, breaking in.
You're with us more than you think you are.
I personally am too goal-oriented and pride myself too much on my success. So doing a bad thing would eat at my conscience. I find more value in doing things the hard way and still being successful. I think most people won't be like that.
I feel like I put a lot of stock in my own values. Like what is important to me, what's going to feel right to me. And I know that that's influenced by society for sure. But for the most part, yeah, that's true. But I also, I grew up seeing my family isn't terrible in any way, but I grew up with flawed parents. I grew up with a flawed family, and I wasn't a kid that put my parents on a pedestal ever. I was a kid who saw my parents for the humanity that they had. And I think because I saw that early on, there was a part of me that felt like I had to compensate in some ways, you know? And so by making the good choices, the right choices. And then I also had like cousins who would make stupid mistakes. And I'm like, why would you want to be yelled at? I don't understand it. That's so dumb. Like, and so I was always the opposite. I didn't want that reaction. I didn't want to deal with and like I never got away with anything. Like I would never have gotten away with anything. So I just didn't even try. Mama Sharon is perfect. Yeah, sure. She's a wonderful woman.
Referring to Amy's mom.
That's so interesting, Amy, because I could totally have seen it going the complete other direction, where it was like I saw moral fluidity within my parents, and so I grew up thinking, like that was acceptable or okay.
Yeah.
But instead, you had that like contrast reaction where you're like, no, I'm gonna like supplement or make up for this. That's so interesting.
I'm a very interesting kid, I guess.
Yes, you are. And like emotionally healthy and mature.
Oh, not always.
Amy's my Cooper.
I feel like the B&E is only affecting me. The bribing thing is involving others. So I think that's why the B&E feels more acceptable.
That's good moral logic.
I grew up with the morally gray parents who would do the bad things. Wow. So it's even more ironic that I am the opposite.
Wow. The storyteller in me is getting hungry for these stories.
Everyone's morally great. Take it. We're feeding it to you. But see, here's the thing. Like, will I get in trouble for this many, many years down the line? I don't think so. I once had a boyfriend that he was a habitual marijuana user, and I used it like once. And then I got a job interview came up, and I was like, well, shoot, like they want me to do a urine test, and I'm like, but I'm not somebody who does drugs, like ever.
One step out of line was punished. That's
right. No, it wasn't punished because I used fake urine. Shh, don't tell anybody.
To jail, yes.
But see, that's
before you just admitted the using the fake one, but she said, "Oh, she can tell me."
But so here's the thing. From my perspective, because I've never really felt that that's like a big thing, it's just marijuana. It didn't. Yeah. I didn't feel so bad about it.
Yes. We all have our own moral codes.
Am I going to jail now? I think statute of limitations. It's way in the past.
He says, I would if it didn't involve unaliving someone. Work smarter, not harder.
The little spoiler, like Jessica believes the exact same way. She's gonna work smarter, not harder, too.
Culinary Crime says marijuana use is a bad thing. Then I take all my answers back.
So yeah, I guess it just depends on where your values and morals lie, right?
Yeah, totally. Also, not to like plug another one of my books, but that is literally the entire like I was like, how far can I push that concept? For Midnight is the Darkest Hour, about two like Bonnie and Clyde, like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of figures, who grow up in a very morally rigid environment, and so like out of opposition have very different set of morals. Anyway, so I love this conversation. This is what I sit around in my office thinking about too.
So earlier you were kind of saying that you're a lot like Jessica and this, you know, like, and so I said it was going to be funny when I read this question, because of exactly how I worded this question. So I said, I would normally ask, which character do you see yourself most like? But honestly, they're all terrible people. So when you're like, I'm like Jessica, I'm like, well, I just said they're all terrible.
Well, I'm going to dig myself an even deeper hole and say the worst parts of every character are the parts from me. Like I kind of took something terrible about me, like, you know, from and made it each like Frankie's worst thing that he struggles with, which is like his fear of being himself around people, and his like fear of being honest with the people he loves and his parents and his family, about who he really is. Like I scalped that one out of me and gave it to him. And, you know, so I'm not like an NFL football player nor an athlete by any means, but like that part of Frankie is part of me. So yeah, they're all terrible people, and their terribleness is the point in which they, in the Venn diagram, overlap with me and who I am as a person. So, yeah,
Well, so
that's
your
yeah.
answer actually was going into my next question, where it says, did you develop your characters before writing them, or
Yeah.
let them develop as you want? Like,
Oh
as
no.
they
My just like my plotting, my character development process is like a very ornate ritual, where I love and worship the craft book by Lisa Cron called The Story Genius, or Story Genius, sorry, not the, it's just Story Genius. And she is a neuroscientist who uses like brain research to make this really compelling argument about why human beings find storytelling so satisfying, and why we have evolved to be storytellers and to want to hear people tell us stories. And so she, like, out of the science, crafts an argument about how to write compelling stories. So I really like this book. Recommend it to any of the writers listening who haven't worked with it yet. But the big argument that she makes is that readers read less to watch like plot unfold, to see like X event happen and Y thing follow it, but to sink inside the brain and the perspective of another person and like have this out of body experience where they're seeing things through that other brain. She calls it the mind meld. I think she steals it from Vulcan, like from Star Trek, is to mind meld with another mind. And that's actually what, you know, evolutionarily speaking, we have really grown to like about reading and being in stories. So I thought that was also interesting. And if you buy her argument, then that means that the most important thing you have to do as a writer, the first step, is to work really hard developing your characters' brains and their perspective, and like really, really fleshing out this person so it feels like a habitable 3D, 4D human brain for your readers to slip into. And so she has you writers start doing a lot of character work, and she has all these worksheets which are so great. You go through them, you get to know your characters on these really deep levels. So I did this for all 7, including Courtney. So basically all the characters for in all the central characters in the friend group. So it took me a lot of time. And it was only after you do all of that character work that you start to develop your plot. And Lisa Cron argues that then at that point, your plot is just going to spring up organically, because you're going to do every little thing that's like, oh, you figured out what your character's worst nightmare is? Perfect. Throw that in. Oh, the thing they want more than anything, you're gonna have, you know, there's gonna be some scene where they're reaching for that and getting it yanked away. So then things, and it really works. It works for me. Like all out of all that character work comes the plot. And so I did all of that with all those many characters, and after like, you know, so many different characters to do that character mapping for, I was like, why have I developed such a huge cast for this book? Like, I've made things so hard for myself. But yeah, I also wanted them all to like be little mirrors in reflecting on both Heather. So like their fatal flaw has to be line up. I made things so hard for myself, but their fatal flaw had to line up with a reason why they could want Heather dead, so that they could later on be a reasonable suspect. And their fatal flaw had to like connect in some way to Jessica. So I did all of that, and then I started writing.
I will say that what you were just talking about worked so well, because never once did I have any clue. Like I wasn't like, oh yeah, it was so and so. And I do that a lot when I'm reading thrillers, and it kind of sucks because if I'm like right off the bat, I'm like, yeah, I think it's so and so, and then I'm right.
Yeah.
Then I'm
You're
like,
oh, wah, wah.
eh. But this one, I was like, never once even tried to guess because I was like, I have no clue. There was nothing.
All
No,
of them.
because they were all bad.
I'm so grateful, but also surprised to hear that because I was literally knocking out each one of the friend group one by one as a suspect. So I was like, oh, people are going to start to guess that it's like the last remaining one, you know? And so they're going to start. So I made this deal with myself, you know, sitting in front of my computer where even if my reader guessed who the killer actually was, they weren't ever going to guess why, the why done it of it. So I figured that, like, even if people are like, oh, it's insert this person, I was still going to be able to pull the twist or the rug out from under their feet by the, like, why, what motivated that person. So that was my little deal to myself.
Well, yeah, and I did start going like, why aren't we getting this one character's dirty laundry?
Exactly. Yeah, I
But you
totally
still
figured.
did add more interesting things at the end to like give us something else to think
Thank
about
you.
too.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I can't leave my girl Jessica alone. I have to torture her a lot.
Make things exciting.
The reading and writing life says, I was a foster parent for 12 years. I feel like I view moral discussions differently than I would when I was in my early 20s. I can't even remember what that person was like.
That's such a good point. Also, God bless you for doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to reread now, knowing everything about this.
I love that.
And Culinary Crime said, same. Early 20s me was the marijuana fan. I'm now a more mature wife and mom who makes better decisions for sure.
Yeah. It's it's fun to like go back and confront and think about that person you used to be, you know, and like see those differences. I feel like that's like really rich territory to think about.
I've said many a time to my partner, if we had have met when we were younger, I would have broken his heart and walked away with no hesitation.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's the biggest weeb, but I love him now for it.
Yes, and yeah, you love that about him, but you probably would have eaten him alive.
Absolutely.
In an earlier era. Yeah.
Well, I think that's like a fatal flaw I see. I'm in education, and I think that's a fatal flaw I see with educators who forget what it's like to be young. And they're like, oh, why are you surprised? Like, these are kids. Like, these are decisions you probably made when you were young, you know?
1,000%. Yeah. It's always interesting to me, and I'll say this, but I literally just clocked the time, and I realized I've kept you guys for like an hour and almost 2 hours. And I have a birthday party that I have to go to for my best friend. So, but I did, she's having a Zodiac themed birthday party. So I have to go get in a Gemini costume, and I'm going to paint half my face one makeup and half the other to just like really freak people out at this. I think everyone else is going to come dressed cute, but I'm going to come scary. Anyway, what was I saying? Whenever I go to like, I'll be on a book panel or something, and maybe the moderator, you know, will have read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife when we're talking about it.
Oh no, Ashley.
Oh no.
Ashley?
Oh my gosh, she really had to go.
Her computer either.
Well, no, she's still like in the background, like.
Yeah. Oh.
I think it's just her video, maybe her video and her sound.
Her best friend cut her off.
No, because like she's still in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Living up to the thriller name.
Liba's hanging. It's the hanging at the end. the birthday party voodoo was
like, you need to go, girl.
Poor Ashley.
Well,
I just wanted to ask what her birthday was.
None for you.
I was going to tell us about her upcoming books next, and then before we ended, but
maybe she'll make it back. Hopefully,
maybe. It's funny because she's like she's still in the studio, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, It's strange.
Um,
Maybe she's
But
even
there's no
yelling at us, like,
sound.
"No, I'm here! I'm here! I'm here!" Oh no!
hold on.
Yes, there
There she is. The other one's still. Let me remove the other one.
That was the
Lord,
perfect
you hear
mystery
it?
thriller ending there.
I know, right? And then I disappear, and you guys hear like author gone. Author
Prologue for her
disappears
next
live on YouTube.
We were just like, well, okay.
Well,
I guess
And
she had to go.
I couldn't hear. It's because someone started FaceTiming me.
Oh.
Oh.
And I quickly clicked off, but then I disappeared.
It
So
was
I'm
funny
so
because
sorry about that.
it still showed
was
you
exciting.
in the studio, and so I was
I
like, well,
know.
she hasn't left.
I didn't. Yes, and I could see your mouths moving, but I couldn't hear what you were saying.
It was
That was my sister who is probably on her way over.
Oh no!
Thinking we're going to the Zodiac party.
We're like twist ending. Everybody's like,
Yes.
well, that was a cliffhanger.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're
I
saying
know.
about the panels, though?
Oh yeah, just that, and then I will disappear into a cloud of smoke. But yeah, that I'll have moderators say like, "Oh yeah, Jessica, what a monster, what a horrible person," and that always makes me very suspicious that people haven't done like introspective self work to like recognize the parts of themselves that you know that are magnified in her. But yeah, I think we're talking about like being a kid and not people not being able to relate to that. So I have a similar feeling when people are really loud about what a terrible person Jessica is. I'm like, yeah, yes, objectively, she has done some things. There's no denying it, but like she is who she is for a reason, I think. Okay,
Yeah,
now that I've
Before
defended.
you have to leave.
Yeah.
Well, before you have to leave us, can you quickly tell everybody about your upcoming books? I know you have two that are set is showing are expected to publish in 2026. Could you tell us a little bit about those?
Okay, well, I'm not allowed to talk about my next thriller, I will say. So that's just an eager Easter egg on Goodreads for anyone who wants to go. My publisher put that up there without letting anyone know. But yeah, so I'm not allowed to talk about that, but that is my next thriller. Will be out July 14th, 2026, and I seriously, genuinely cannot wait to talk about it. I think my books coming up are my the best thing that I've done. Hopefully, I guess every author is going to think that about their upcoming work, but I'm really proud of it. And my book, The Future Saints, is coming out in January, is my first foray into romantic drama. So the angst and they're technically calling it upmarket fiction, like book club fiction. So something that's supposed to have wide appeal because it's about families and the bond of sisterhood, really like a sister relationship is at the heart of it. But it's also a lot of romance and a lot of yearning and angst. I wrote that before even watching Summer I Turned Pretty. But yes, so I'm really proud of that. That'll be out in January, and then my thriller will be in the summer.
Kay says Books and Lala, who's a very big booktuber, if you didn't know,
Yes.
is thinking about reading your thriller for her Literally Dead book club 1 month next year.
Love it. Sounds good. That would be
One
amazing.
other quick question. What is your birthday?
Oh, June 1st, 1986.
June 1st.
Yeah.
I've got 6 people on the 5th of June. So I was like, am I adding you to the tally?
Yes, I know. Us Gemini babes are apparently all up in the book world. It makes sense.
Amanda's June 11th.
June 11th. Love it.
There we go.
We're wordy, verbose people.
We love it.
I've got dogs and husbands walking in the back.
I love it. Life is tugging at us.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, Ashley, and answering all our questions.
This is such a blast. You guys are amazing. I clearly could very easily talk to you for many more hours. We'll just take Paige right into Australian afternoon and evening.
This was
Well,
wonderful.
Have fun by
And-
that.
And your
have-
verboseness is very enchanting, actually. I
Oh.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
It's been a blast for us too, and we've enjoyed chatting with you. I would also stay for hours and hours on end, but I have to leave for the airport at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, goodness. That sounds fun. I hope you're
So-
going somewhere cool, somewhere fun.
Flying to Manhattan and then getting on a cruise the next day. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That's so cool.
But thank you again for joining us, and for all of you in the chat, thanks for asking and all your
Thank
questions
you.
and your comments. And
Truly.
make sure to come back and join Amy and Paige and I for our after hours sorority/fraternity mixer or after hours
Ooh.
live show at 8 p.m. Eastern time here on my channel. And we're just going to chat and have fun and talk about whatever. So we'll see you there, and we'll see you all later. And if you're not already subscribed to these two, go and do it. If you haven't already gotten Ashley's book, go and do it and read it and come back and watch this again, because it's fun to
Whole new
hear all this.
dimensions. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it.
And if you're not subscribed to me, hello, do
What have you
that.
been doing with your life? Yeah.
And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye.
Thank you.